Afternoon. It's great to have you on the stream this afternoon. I welcome you to the stream. And today it's going to be a continuation of the course, PED114. And I think in one more class we should be done with one more class, we should be done with the course. Okay, sorry, just a moment. So, okay, so without further ado, let's hop straight into today's class. So I have PED114. I believe we all can see the board clearly. I should adjust this a little bit. Okay, I think it's better this way. Okay, adjust that a bit. So to start with, we are going to comments from Gange, gains. All right. Gains hierarchy of concepts. Gains hierarchy of concept and meaning and mathematic learning. Gains hierarchy of concept, all right, meaning and mathematical learning. Now, Gain said something about cognitive development. Cognitive development. All right. It said something about cognitive development. Now, what did he say about cognitive development? He said cognitive development is a field of study, all right, in neuroscience and psychology, focusing on what? Children's development. A field of what? A field of study in neuroscience and psychology that focuses on children's development in terms of information processes. Children, all right? Children's what? Focuses on children's development in terms of focuses on children development in terms of information processing, conceptual resources, perpetual skill language learning, and other aspects of brain development and cognitive psychology. Now, all these things now has to do with cognitive development. When we talk about the conceptual resources, when we talk about information processes, right, perceptual skills, all this has to do with your cognitive development. Okay, now the thing here now is that Gange's cognitive development is what is particular about a child, all right? It's particular about, it's concerned with the development, all right, of the child's cognitive, all right, of a child's cognitive development, all right? Now, another question is, okay, just a moment. Now, Let's take note of this, please. Now, Robert Gang, in his book on the conditions of learning, all right, that was Robert Gang, in his book on the conditions of learning, all right, he said something about taxonomy of learning types, all right, taxonomy of learning type. He said something about taxonomy of learning, all right, and he arranged them accordingly. Okay, now the very first one he talked about is one. He talked about signal learning. Signal learning. All right, and according to him, he said is a type, all right, of associative learning. Right? He said signal learning is a type of associative learning that has been what initially studied by Pavlov, who has called it conditioned reflex. All right? Signal learning, according to Robert Gans, right? Gans, all right? According to him, he said it has to do with associative learning. Associative all right, he said it has to do with associative learning, and he made reference to the study, all right, of this kind of learning by Pavlov, who also referred to it as what a conditioned reflex. All right, Pavlov, all right, he made reference to Pavlov, who called it what a conditioned reflex. All right, so all this now we are talking about is under the taxonomy of learning of Robert Gans. All right, and we have the first one, which is a signal learning, and also we have the stimulus respond learning. The stimulus respond learning. Two, stimulus response, all right, the stimulus response learning. All right, here now this is another type of associative learning, okay, that has been called trial and error learning by Thorndike. All right, another what associative learning called what trial, okay, called what trial by error learning by who? By Thorndike. Okay, by Thorndike. Now let's proceed. Now Skinner has used the term operant learning for it. Okay, now this stimulus response learning, which is also a associative kind of learning, all right, is referred to trial by error learning by Thorndike and what we call operant learning by Skinner. Now it involves some goals or objectives that the subject attempt to achieve. All right, here it involves this kind of learning involve some goals and objectives that the subject intend. The subject now is the person who is undergoing this learning process, intends to achieve. All right, now the process is essentially a successive approximation process. Now you see stimulus response learning is referred to as a successive approximation process. A what? A successive approximation what? Process. A successive approximation process. All right. Now we have that as that. So we have what you also call chaining. Chaining. All right. Chaining. Now, chaining is a process of establishing what? A sequential connection of a set of stimulus. All right. When we talk about chaining, we're talking about establishing the sequential, all right, connection of a set of stimulus. Okay. A stimulus response pair for the purpose of attaining a particular goal. Now let's take that down. The process of what? Establishing all right, a sequential connection. A sequential a what? Sequential a sequential connection of a set of stimulus responses. All right, a set of stimulus responses pair for the purpose of what? Of attaining a particular goal. Or response pair, all right, for the purpose of attaining a particular goal. All right, so we have that as that. Now let's talk about the verbal association. Now when we say verbal associations, now human beings have the ability to what? We are talking about the ability of humans to encode and express knowledge through sound patterns. All right, verbal association speaks of the ability, all right, humans expresses in what? In encoding and express knowledge through sound pattern. All right, the ability to encode and express. When we say encode, you can create. Okay, the ability for humans to create, to encode, all right, to be the author or the orchestrator of what? Of sound patterns, not just to encode but also express knowledge through what? Sound pattern. That is what we have as verbal association. All right, just like we have multiple discrimination learning, and multiple discrimination learning here is talking about discrimination in particular. And here, discrimination is the ability to what? To distinguish between two or more stimuli. All right, discrimination. All right, the ability to what? To distinguish between two or more stimuli. To distinguish between two or more stimuli. All right, stimulus. All right, objectives or events. Stimulus, objectives or events. All right, now there are two different kinds of discrimination here. Okay, There are two different types. Now, the very first one is where the learner is able, all right, to make different responses to different members of a collection of events. Now, let's put that down. So let me just erase this so we can have sufficient space. All right, so that's discrimination learning. That's discrimination learning. All right, so we have this, we have this, we have two, and we have one. All right, now the first capacity of discrimination learning is, all right, where a learner is able to make different responses, all right, different responses, all right, different responses to different member of a collection of stimuli and objects. Different responses by a learner, all right, to a, all right, collection of stimuli, a collection of stimulus, all right, stimulus, events and objects, events and objects, all right. And secondly, the capability of the learner to respond to a single way of collection. As you can see here, responses to a collection as against to respond to a single way of collection of stimulus belonging to a single set, not a collection. So we have the capability to respond to a single set and to a collection, all right, a collection of stimulus, all right, response, all right, respond to a single set, a single set, a single way of collection, a single way, a single way to a single way to a collection of stimulus, of stimulus, all right, belonging to a single set, belonging to a single set. All right, now let's continue. Now, the principle or rule learning. Now, some concepts are not concrete. They are based on rules and involve other concepts. So they have to be learned through definition. All right. So speaking of the principle or rule learning, all right, this principle or rule learning speaks more about learning through definitions. All right. And when we say definition, we say definitions are statements. Definitions, all right, statements, all right, that express rules for classifying, All right, statement that what? That express rules for class C. All right, statement that express rules for classifying. All right, rules that are applicable to any instance of particular class. Now, definitions are used for objects as well as for relations. All right, used for objects and relations. Now, the following sequence of events is typical in problem solving. All right, sequence of events in problem solving. Sequence, all right, when we say sequence, the process, the step by step, the precept upon precept of getting a problem solved. All right, so we're going to talk about the sequence of events, all right, which is typical, all right, which is peculiar to solving a problem. Then we have the very first one as you have to present the problem. Okay, present the problem as a sequence of problem solving. Just four of them. One, first, presentation of the problem. All right. Two, we have you have to define the problem. Presentation is more of identifying the problem. Okay, so when you identify or when you present the problem, when you present the problem, then it's seen as a problem. Then now begin to what? You now begin to define the problem. Define the problem. All right. When you define the problem, they will talk about the formulation of hypothesis. And when we say hypothesis, those are reasonable guesses, right? If this had happened, all right, this might have been the result. Okay. Now let's say, for example, if it happened to be that a flood occurred in a particular place, all right. So if you want to now check or you want to formulate hypothesis to that, then you could be thinking of, okay, flood. That means the possible guess you can think in that direction is that it must have rained. All right. So because it must have been as a result of the rain that might have led to the flood, or maybe a dam overflew its bank. All right. If a nearby dam had overflown its bank, then it might have led to the erosion. Okay. Or maybe some other things that might have led to it, but your hypothesis has to be in line with what you are, the problem you're trying to solve. Okay, so the third stage, which is the formulation of hypothesis, we formulate hypothesis. That's the third stage, and we have the fourth stage, which has to do with verification. You verify. Verification of hypothesis. All right. So we have that as that. Now let's proceed. So now you should know. Take this point down, please. You see, the discrimination. Let's not forget, the discrimination of learning constitute the basics. All right, the discrimination for learning constitute the basis, all right, of learning. I don't know if we get that. The discrimination, all right. Let's not forget, when we say discrimination, we are talking about the ability to distinguish between two or more stimulus, object, or what events. Now, this ability is now the basis for learning. So please, let's take note of that point. Okay, let me erase this so we can have space for some other things. Now, we want to take note of another point. Jane Piaget. All right. We want to see who Jane Piaget is. Jane Piaget in 1896 to 1980, who happens to be a biologist. A biologist named what? Jane. All right. Jane Piaget in 1896 to what? 1980. All right. Now, this biologist who studied, all right, molecules, all right, and publishing 20 scientific paper on them, all right, by the time he was 21. All right. Now, biologist Jane Piaget by 21, all right, already published, all right, already published 21 scientific papers, all right, on molecules, the study of molecules. All right. Now, he proposed, okay, let me just erase this. Let's just take note of this point. Now, Jane Piaget proposed that children's thinking does not develop entirely smoothly. Instead, there are certain points at which it takes off. All right. Children's what? Children's thinking, all right, does not what? Develop entirely smoothly, according to him. All right. Now, he said there is a point at which it takes off and moves into, now it's just like it get to a point, then it's just skyrockets. It skyrockets. Okay. It skyrockets and it moves into completely new areas and capacities or capabilities. Now, he saw this transition. Now, children's thinking as a level of what? Transition. All right. He said it does not just what? Develop entirely smoothly. It has a level of transition. All right. And this level of transition takes place at about 18 months. All right. 18 months. That's the level of transition. All right. If you're on the stream and you are yet to smash the like button, do well to smash the like button. And if you're as well on the stream and you are yet to signify to let us know you are on the stream, maybe by saying hello, good afternoon, good morning, or maybe tell us where you are streaming from, do well to do that so we can acknowledge your presence. All right. So let's go straight into the class. Now, it says 18 months. At 18 months, there's a level of transition. All right. There's a level of transition. All right. And it said 7 years and 18 months at 7, 11, all right, or 12 years. All right. It says at this junction, children's development, all right, children thinking, all right, Miss James Monica, you are welcome. It's great to have you on the stream. Thank you. I think Miss James Monica just smashed the like button. Thank you. If you are here to also do like Miss James, just do well to do that. And let me use the opportunity to tell us that there is a classroom, right? There's a private classroom whereby you get a lot of things in that classroom. You get exam keynotes, you get past questions, and you get one-on-one Telegram classes. in that classroom. All right. For as many of us who are interested to join that classroom, just go to the comments to the link I attached to this video. That's www.tutorial.com. Takes you, when you go there, to the website. You can get me directly on WhatsApp. My WhatsApp contact is there. Now, so we have now Piaget believe that reality is a dynamic system of continuous change. All right, he believes that reality is a what? Is a dynamic system. All right, is a dynamic system of what? Continuous change. All right, and as such is defined in reference to the two conditions, all right, that define dynamic system. Now, it says here, in the level of transition in the growth of a child's thinking development, all right, Jane Piaget, he postulated that these transitional stages and junction in the thinking development of children, all right, is dynamic, meaning that at this certain junction you are expected to experience or witness certain changes, and these changes are not limited to any stimulus. All right, these changes are dynamic and they are actually classified as a dynamic system. All right, according to Jane Piaget, the biologist. Now, let's proceed. Now, transformation refers to all manners of changes that a thing or a person can undergo. All right, talking about transition or transformation. All right, transformation, speaking of which, refers to all manners of changes that a thing, all manners of changes that a thing, all right, or a person can undergo. A thing or a person can undergo. All right, now he also spoke about the states now and referred to the states, as the condition or the appearances in which things or a person can be found between transition. All right, the conditions or appearances, all right, that a person could be what? Found. All right, between what? That a person could be found between transformation. Okay, now let's proceed. Now, this biologist said some certain things about stages of intellectual development. All right, stages of intellectual development. All right, now he said something about the sensorimotor stage. Now, he classified the sensorimotor stage as the first out of four. All right, four stages. The sensorimotor stage is classified as the first. All right, sensor remotor is classified as the first. Okay, now it said here in now these are actually cognitive. The four stages are what? Actually cognitive stages. All right, now this stage extends from birth to the acquisition of language. In this stage, infants construct an understanding of the world, all right, by coordinating experiences such as seeing and hearing with physical motoric actions. All right, let me take that again. Just a moment. Now, in this stage, infants gain knowledge of the world from physical action they perform. Now, the sensory motor stage has to do with what? It extends from birth. All right, extends from birth. All right, to the learning of what? Learning of language. All right, it extends from birth to learning of language. All right, the coordination of what? Experiences. Coordination of what? Experiences. Talking about hearing, all right, and seeing. Infants begin to gather experiences, begin to observe, all right, and respond to some certain stimulus. All right, now under this we have what we call serenation. All right, under this we have what we call serenation, and serenation here is the ability to what? Sort objects in order to sort objects in an order according to size, shape, and other characteristics. When we say serenation, all right, in the cognitive development of children, this is the stage or the ability when they have, all right, when they characterize objects by size, shape, and color and other things. We have transitivity. Now, this ability is to help recognize logical relationship among elements in serial orders. All right, logical elements, logical relationship among elements in serial orders. All right, for example, if A is taller than B, then B is taller than C, and A is much taller than C. All right, that's that for that. Now let's talk about the formal operation stage. Now, the formal operation under the formal operation stage, now this just a moment. Okay, now before we talk about the formal operation stage, now let's talk about elimination of egocentrism. One, two, three. Okay, now we've spoken about the transitivity, all right, Now, before we go to the fourth one, let me write it here. Transitivity. 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 All right. And we say here, this is the ability to what? Logical relationship among elements. Logical relationship among elements. If A is smaller than B, that means B is smaller than C and A is much smaller than C. All right. So we have egocentrism. All right. Here, the ability to view things from another perspective. All right. Egocentrism. All right. View things. All right. From other perspective. And we have 4, which is the formal, all right, operation stage. Operation stage. All right. Here, the ability to what? Okay, we've talked about egocentric, and in the formal operation period, which is the final of all periods of cognitive development, all right, this stage follows a concrete operation stage, commences at 11 years of age, which is puberty, and continues into adulthood. All right, so we have now during the 1980s and 1990s, cognitive development were influenced by what? They were influenced during 1980s and 1990s. Okay, cognitive development, that is a CD. Cognitive development was what? Influenced by neo-nativists and evolutionary psychology idea. Neo-nativists, all right, and evolutionary, all right, evolutionary psychology ideas. Okay, so we have that. So on this note, we'll call it a wrap for today's class, and in our next class we'll continue from writing objective using Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. I believe you've been able to get a thing or two in today's class. Let's do all to bring our notes up to date. If there are any classes you might have missed on this course, just come back to the channel and type the course code and you will get the class all arranged for you. And pending the time, we'll have all the classes arranged on the website. You can use the YouTube channel, which you can always get back to the class anytime you want. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much, everyone. And I look forward to seeing you subsequent tutorials. Bye-bye.